Welcome along to our preview of the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, which takes place from Paris-Longchamp this Sunday, live on Sky Sports Racing. Time to delve into the full 20-runner field that will assemble, all looking for their place in the history books this weekend. Let's have a look at how they bet for the race. A big field have assembled, and it's headed by the Aidan O'Brien-trained Luxembourg, who's looking to give the trainer a third win in the race after success, most recently with Found. Alpinista for Sir Mark Prescott, 5-1. Last year's winner Torquato Tasso looking to follow in the hoofprints of the most recent back-to-back winners of this, Enable and Triomphe, 7-1. 4 runners from Japan as they look to end their hoodoo in the race, the most sought-after race in the Japanese's trophy cabinet, still yet to find a spot. Titleholder very much heads therefore and is a 9-1 shot. And then the best of the French, as far as the market is concerned, is Vadeni, as he looks to step up to the 1.5 miles for the first time in the silks of the Aga Khan, celebrating 100 years of success on the racecourse. And he lines up for Jean-Claude Rouget. Jamie Lynch alongside me as we look ahead to this most prestigious of races, and a market headed, Jamie, by Luxembourg.
Yeah, he's the now horse. He's the momentum horse, because through the summer, he was on the periphery of these championship races, but sat on the sidelines. And it's both the style and substance of his autumn resurgence which has put him to the top of this Arc de Triomphe field. In effect, Gina, he was behind schedule when he did what he did here in the Irish Champion Stakes after an injury in the 2000 Guineas, which meant that he missed the Derby. But this horse is bred to be a 1.5 mile horse. He's designed to be a 1.5 mile horse. He's been trained to be a 1.5 mile horse. And this is his first chance to express those stamina muscles. So 127, 128, that's the sort of region it takes to win the Arc de Triomphe. He's rated 122 as a 3-year-old, but it's hard to believe, Gina, that he's not going to put many more pounds on top of that. Now he gets his chance over a 1.5 miles.
He's well drawn as well. He ticks that box in stall 8. As far as stats go, though, all 10, I think Barcelemia in the last decade have won over a 1.5 miles previously. So it is a step up in distance. As you said, he seems to have that in his armoury, but just a question mark potentially with regard to recent trends.
Yeah, so his potential is why he's favourite, but also that's a blessing and a curse, because he's got the inexperience, which means that this trip and this type of field, not just the quality but the quantity, is something Luxembourg has never before faced. And when you look at his wins and his runs, he's got a grinding style. He's more a grinder than a glider. So he wouldn't want to get caught in pockets at Longchamp, as can happen in a field like this with the nature of the track. But it's hypothetical with him. The evidential is that he's a fast improving 3-year-old from the best yard in the world, and now, only now, 1 year, 2 months and 17 days on from his debut, he gets the chance to do what he's bred for over a 1.5 miles.
He has got that potential touch of brilliance, that potential to step up and show us yet more on the track. A filly who we know plenty about and has every box ticked is Alpinista, who's second in the market for Sir Mark Prescott, Luke Morris and owner breeder Kirsten Rousing. A 3-time Group 1 winner over in Germany last year. Came out at the start of this year with a slightly belated beginning to her campaign, but stamped her authority on the boys in the Grand Prix de Saint-Cloud in no uncertain terms to land her 4th Group 1 at this stage. She's gone on to land a 5th in the Yorkshire Oaks since. And you just get the impression with this filly, Jamie, that every box is ticked. She's rock solid from every angle, including her draw in stall 6.
She's a professional polymath. A polymath is just someone who's really good at everything, and that's exactly what she is. She's greater than the sum of her parts, because there's no one part you can point to and say that's why she's won 5 Group 1s in a row, but it's her collective armoury and her immunity to different circumstances which has helped her generate this streak. So with Alpinista, you just know with her that she's not going to put a foot wrong at any point in this race, and she'll be the one who'll keep her head while all around might be losing theirs. You've got to know her close up and personal, Sir Mark Prescott stable. What was your chief takeaway from meeting her?
Wonderful temperament, very small filly. She's only about 15'2". She's not impressive to look at. She's a strong looking filly, but she just has that rock solid temperament where she takes everything in her stride. That looks to be evident in her races as well, and I just get the impression that she's going to give her running whatever. Now, Now, whether that will be quite good enough against something that might take a step forward, we will see on Sunday. But she's certainly been prepared to the minute. Everything has gone to plan, and she holds a really strong hand, as does last year's winner Torquato Tasso, because he's been there, done that, and got the T-shirt. And Jamie, he finds himself in not only similar waters this year, but on similar ground as well, potentially.
That's right. And this is less about the horse and more about the race. Because look at what this race did for him last year. He was 72-1. He was unconsidered. He'd been beaten by Alpinista, amongst others, on approach. But the conditions and the course brought a new level for Torquato Tasso. So that's why he is so interesting and important in this race. He's coming back to not just the race, but the conditions which helped him beat arguably a stronger field than is assembled for the 2022 version.
He is drawn in stall 18. Maybe that will just give him a chance to sit on the outside and let the action unfold. He likes a good strong pace, which in a big field he's likely to get. This was a much more tactical affair, and actually acquitted himself really well in the King George this summer.
Yeah, and he hasn't quite hit the same heights as he did last year at Longchamp, but this is about as close as he got. And I think there's a lot of merit in this, because pile driver, the fully professional and hardened pile driver, gets first run on him, and the ground just isn't what Torquato Tasso specialises in. This race, Gina, was about 8 seconds less in the completion than last year's Arc, and you can see how that emphasis more on speed did hurt Torquato Tasso. But he's back to the scene of his biggest and best days, and it feels like he's been trained primarily for this. He hasn't got René Picholek, but he has got Frankie Dettori.
7-time winner of the Arc, he can conjure up something special from a wide draw in stall 18. Now, the Japanese have got 4 chances in the race, headlined by Titleholder, who has the strongest form coming into this, has already beaten one of his other rivals, Deep Bond, by 7 lengths, I think, when the pair met in the Tarazuka Kinnan over in Japan. He looks to hold a strong hand. Glancing through his form, though, Jamie, maybe the surface might just go against him, but how strong a hand does he have in the pantheon of Japanese stars we've seen come so close, the Orfèvres, the El Condor Passos in the past, the deep impacts in the past.
So, 26 runners Japan have sent to the Arc de Triomphe without success. This is the 27th and perhaps the best one of the lot, just because of the skills and style that he brings. He broke the track record that day, and that takes some doing, A, given the history of that race, and B, given his position through the race. Normally when a track record is broken over 1.5 miles, you think about a relay where the baton is passed from one to the other, and that generates a strong pace. But he sat second and kicked off the home turn. It's very unusual for a horse to break a track record over 11 furlongs in a Group 1, having won a 2-mile race by 7 lengths. So he is, according to the official rankings, the best horse in the lineup, with a rating of 125. The question is, Gina, is that rating transferable to France? History says no, but the last 12 months are really interesting with how Japan seemed to have worked out the transportation and travel of horses. 2 winners at the Breeders' Cup, 4 winners at Saudi, and 5 winners on Dubai World Cup night. If they've figured out how to transfer their talent to a European circuit, then that fella simply is the best horse in the race with the perfect style for Longchamp.
He's got an aggressive style. He's got plenty of stamina in his armoury, and reports suggest he's been working well on softened ground as well. He will break from stall 10, which is not insurmountable, and he's joined by 3 other runners of his fellow countrymen, including Do Juice, who is quite an interesting one. Yutaka Taki taking his 10th ride in the Arc, and what a story that would be if he could bring it home for the Japanese Derby winner. The home team, though, are headlined by Vadeni, who has been added to the field in the last week or so. For Christophe Soumillon, Jean-Claude Rouget in the colours of the Aga Khan, a horse who brings in rock-solid 10-furlong form. Can he stretch that out over the longer trip on Sunday?
It's the key question with him. It's the key question with the race, potentially, because I'm not sure any of the horse in the race could have done what Vadeni did this day over 1.25 miles. He's the surprise package, a surprise because of what he did here, and that's expressed by Jean-Claude Rouget himself, who said he was surprised that he was able to win so easily. It was a surprise, Gina, that he went to Sandown for the Coral Eclipse, where he beat some heavyweight older horses, including Mishriff, and it is something of a surprise that he is now appearing in the Arc de Triomphe, when for much of the autumn it felt and sounded like he wasn't going to go up to 1.5 miles. So the question is, can he stretch out? Have you got any notes from his pedigree which would suggest one way or the other?
Well, he's by Churchill, that would suggest he might find it a stretch, but he's out of a Monson mare, and there are 1.25 miles, staying performers in the female side to suggest mixed messages, but potential to stay the trip, and that will be the big question mark for him. One horse who we know will stay the trip just in behind them in the betting that we should mention is Rafe Beckett's Westover. We saw him the King George, a little bit too free, too keen that day, but he's an unexposed 3-year-old who couldn't be ruled out.
7-length winner of the Irish Derby, and not just that, because there is the what-if factor after the Epsom Derby, where he was third but met trouble in running. So he's trying to do the workforce route of the Derby winner, for whom things went wrong in the King George, but then the reset button was pressed and workforce roared to glory at Longchamp. Can Westover do the same? At the forefront of your mind is what happened and what went wrong in the King George, but don't put at the back of your mind his staggering performance to win the Irish Derby by 7 lengths.
Well, we had a 72-1 winner of the race last year, so we shouldn't be discounting the bottom half of the field anyway in the betting. But the time has come to nail down a selection. Who will you be going for in the Arc this year, Jamie?
I'm coming down to Vadeni. I'm trusting in his stamina. I'm trusting in Christophe Soumillon. He's got the perfect draw towards the inside. And I don't think that any other horse in the lineup has got the 10 furlong turbo that he has shown. If he can stretch that out over 12 furlongs, then he's going to be a big danger to all. What about you, Gina?
I'm sticking with Alpinista. I think bias, having seen her last week at St Mark Prescott's, but I think she's got every box ticked. And if they falter on bad ground, if we get horses getting into trouble, she will give her running. She's got a great draw in stall 6. And I think she's got a great chance of being the first 5-year-old mare since Corrida way back in the 30s to take this race and come out on top in Europe's most prestigious contest, the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, which takes place this Sunday live on Sky Sports Racing, one of 6 Group 1s on the card at 3:05.